So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to negotiate your first multi-million dollar acquisition. So right from the moment where you find a business who wants to sell you their business, it's a profitable business, it has been there in your city for 10, 15, 20 years, it's performing really well, it already has an established employee base, and it has a very strong base of customers, and the customers have a good relationship with the business and they are paying a whole bunch of money in sales. They're making good sales, they have a healthy profit margin, and this is where you want to come and you want to own this asset, right? Somebody else built this asset, put money, time, effort and decades of their life and took a lot of risk to build this asset that's extremely valuable, and you want to knock on their door and make a proposal and to buy their business, right? And you don't have any money. So how do you walk in, how do you get into a situation like that, and how do you negotiate your first deal? I'm going to give you a little bit of a background and overview of how to do that. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Prithvi, and I'm the founder of a healthcare investment company based in UAE. And in the last several years, I've negotiated a $3.5 million transaction, a $10 million transaction, and a couple of other transactions. And the largest transaction that I negotiated was a $120 million and a $140 million potential acquisition that I got to be in a negotiation with. So I'm going to be revealing the steps of what makes a good deal and how to negotiate. So let's start with the time when you are sitting in your apartment. You have a list of companies in an industry that you like, and in an industry that is profitable and that has a lot of businesses that you can buy in your country, right? And you're sitting down and you have the phone numbers. So you start making the call and you start asking people if they want to sell their business. And what you will start to notice is that you will have to make a lot of calls to find a good deal. Once you find someone interested, you got to go in, and there are a couple of things that we will need to be aware of. And number one is, how old is the owner? Okay, so it's important to understand why a business that's so profitable will sell their business to you. They don't need to, and it will not make sense for you to buy it. It will not make sense for them to sell the business to you. And you will get this response quite often that, I'm doing good, Prithvi, why would I sell it to you? Unless you are going to give me a crazy price, I would not get off this seat. I'm making a whole bunch of money, I'm making millions of dollars. Why would I sell my business to you, especially at such a low offer that you are giving me, right? So they will ask you, they will say these things, and I've had these things said to me. So here is the reason why they will do it. First of all, not everybody is going to do it. So there is going to be a certain category, a certain type of seller who is going to do it. And we call this a motivated seller. So a motivated seller is basically a seller that's much older in age, and when you get too old and you have been making a whole bunch of money, the value of money is less important than the time that you have. Because as you get older, you have very less time left, and assuming you have a very successful business, well, that business wasn't created by accident. That business was created by blood, sweat and tears. That business was created with sacrifices that were made at the family level and at the personal level. So if that person has been working in the business for 15, 20 years, it's very likely that they have some health issues. It's possible they have health issues. It's possible they have a whole bunch of family issues because they are at work most of the time, and there is a whole disruption in their personal life. And because of those reasons, they want to sell the business to you. And they just don't want to sell the business to you. They need to sell the business to you, whether they want it or not. They have to sell the business to you they're on their fucking knees. Okay, they have to be on their knees. Otherwise, you cannot really negotiate, you know. Or you can have all types of tactics in the book. Oh, I'm gonna offer you 1-time earnings, 2-time earnings. You know, it's not gonna work. Okay, they're not gonna take you seriously, and they're gonna throw you out of the office. So what you gotta do is you gotta find someone who is desperate. You know, desperate for personal reasons, not desperate because the business is not doing well. You will find a lot of those people also who are on their knees because the business is not working out. So you find someone who has, who is in a vulnerable position. They cannot run, they're tired, they want to get out of the business. They need someone like you to run their business. The prize is not such an important thing for them. The release from the business is more important to them than the price. They're not looking to make a bunch of money from this transaction. They will be happy to receive some money, and you know, they are more inclined towards letting this business go, and they're okay with selling you at a discounted price. So only those opportunities which will sell you at a discounted price, assuming the business is very profitable, because we are not in the business of buying non-profitable companies. We want only profitable businesses that have a successful track record for 10 plus years. And when you have a business like that, which is successful and has a motivated seller in a vulnerable position, now you can have a discussion about a deal. If you don't have these two elements together, the possibility of a deal is not there. You should not even take a meeting with a person who is not motivated or who has a loss-making business. So this criteria alone will eliminate 80 to 85% of the businesses, probably 90% of the businesses. So you will have 10% of the businesses that are going to be a prospect for acquisition. A sure way to lose a game is to overpay for an asset, and then you cannot exit at a profit, or that asset goes down. Okay, so you don't want that. You want to buy low because you are raising debt to buy this thing with a bank, and you got to make sure that that debt amount is very low, so that the cash flow is very high, so that the debt service to cash flow ratio is very comfortable, and you will get to assess that before you do a transaction. So imagine the kind of certainty that comes from a transaction like this. Think about it. You have a business that's profitable. It has been profitable for last 10 years. It has got 30 to 40% profit margin, okay? And it has no debt in the company. And the owner is old, and he's willing to sell this business to you at a discounted price, with the employees, with the whole infrastructure, everything included, at a very small price. Much less price than what he should be selling you on, because of the position that he is in. Okay, that's a deal. Okay, that's a deal. And what you want to do is you want to take the purchase price that's discounted and pay a small amount upfront, and the rest has to be delayed over time. What this does is this further reduces the risk. So how you value the company is already very conservatively, and then you paid a very small amount of that to the seller upfront, and you structured the remaining portion over time, so that the seller has to continue to perform and generate the sales and not fuck up the business before he leaves and leave you with an empty shop. Okay, so you don't want that. You want the business to keep functioning after the owner has retired. The only way he is going to do that is if you leave some payment for a future date based on some successful metrics that you want the business to perform. And if the business doesn't hit those targets, the second payment is not going to be given. And if the business exceeds the target, he will receive more money. Okay, makes sense? All right. So you want to make sure he's motivated. You want to make sure that the business is profitable. You want to make sure that you have not just a one-off deal, because you're not in it for doing one deal. You are in it to do several deals. Several multi-million-dollar deals will create generational wealth. Buying one business, $1 million worth, is not going to make you rich. You have to have many transactions over time. For this, you got to make sure that you have a lot of businesses that are available for you to buy. How do you make sure that you have a lot of businesses to buy? Well, think about this. Let's take healthcare, for example. You have got a doctor that owns the company. This doctor, at the age of 20, maybe started the medical school. It took him 10 years to complete the medical school. He's now 30 years old. Then he did internship for 3 to 5 years, additional training, right? He's 35. Then he did a job for 10 years. Maybe he's 40, 45. From the job, he had income and he gave his student debt, right? And maybe his house, mortgage, whatever. Then till 45, he made a lot of money, okay? He made some money. At 45, he used this money to start a company, his own clinic, right? He understood how the business works. He worked at a business. He started a company. If the business is 15 to 20 years old, you can be sure that the owner is around 60 to 65, because when he started off, he was 45 years old and he ran the business for 15 to 20 years, and he will be around 65 years old, okay? Assuming the business is 20 years old. So if he's 65 to 70 years old, why would he run the business in his final years? He will have to exit. And if it's $1 million business, he will have very few buyers to buy this business. Now let's think about one thing for a second. You tell me, how many people do you know who buys healthcare companies? How many people in your network, in your extended network, in your extended family, have you ever heard about buying a dental clinic or buying a hospital or buying a daycare surgery? How many people do you know? But if you look at real estate, how many people do you know who own houses, right? So we buy houses all the time, but we don't buy healthcare. People don't buy healthcare companies all the time. But healthcare assets are way more valuable in terms of cash flow and in terms of the valuation than, for example, a house or a real estate, right? Healthcare is extremely profitable. So there is a profitable sector where there are a lot of assets available to acquire, and nobody's acquiring that, or very few people are doing it. And you have too many assets. What's going to happen to the valuation for these small assets, $1 million deals? They're going to go down in value because there is no demand for them. People are afraid to get into these transactions because, you know, they're not a doctor, they don't know how to run a healthcare company, they don't have expertise, they don't have financial expertise, they don't know how to structure the deal, they don't know how to make the calls and do these meetings and negotiate a transaction. They don't understand all of this. So there is a big barrier to entry. There is a moat around the castle, and you have, so there is a big boundary around this industry, and there is a barrier to entry. For those reasons, a lot of people just turn their head and do something, you know, that's familiar, you know, something like real estate or something that they have heard about or done it before. So for those reasons, because of the barrier to entry, a lot of people are not doing it. Assets are down in value. And you go in and you, within that sector, you find an owner that's very old, and you can negotiate the price further. And you can get a business, this profitable business in a very profitable, growing industry at a cheap price, and you negotiate terms where you give an initial down payment and the rest is structured over time. And that's a good deal, because the down payment will be financed through debt, and that portion is going to be very small compared to the cash flow. So it's a safer way to raise debt and acquire an asset. And once you do a deal, you have done a multi-million-dollar transaction. All right. So that's how you successfully negotiate a deal. I didn't get into technicalities because first thing is principle about motivated seller and a profitable business. If you have these two components, you can value the business, you can structure it, propose the deal, put it on paper, everything, sign, and you have a transaction. Okay, so but you got to make sure that you have a motivated seller and a profitable business in an industry that's growing, in an industry that has too many assets available to buy. So if you want to learn this game and you want to be a master of this, you want to be in position to do this, there are several preliminary steps that you need to do, like building a team of advisors, getting your accounting firm, law firm, building relationships with banks. And if this is something you want to be trained in, I have been involved in this last few years. I have been trained by Dan Pena. I've done the QLA seminar, QLA hardcore seminar. I have met several individuals. Some of them have created $30 million portfolios, $25 million portfolios. Friends of mine that attended the seminar with me, and I've met several successful people who got rich doing this. So if you want to learn this, if you want to know how to do this, reach out to me. I have a one-on-one mentorship program where I will take you step by step through the whole process until your first acquisition. So if that's you, reach out to me and we'll speak further. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.